Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Romine, and this is the Houston Grass Podcast. We are the last couple of days of August here. Last month we got blown away by hurricanes and had some real wet weather. I talked to the farm and they were rained out. They had more rain out days than cutting days last month. So this month we kind of switched gears and it was hot and dry for August. We're kind of in this last week and a few people are getting showers, but that it's kind of funny how things switch around. Last summer was all hot and dry and drought, and the chinch bugs were horrible. This summer we had so much rain in July that it kind of kept all that at bay, but we had the gray leaf spot fungus that's brought on by the excessive rain. But now, again, we've got rain this week. We'll see how much pans out. They seem to be dropping rain chances, and we've got some ground to make up. And if you haven't been irrigating, chinch bugs are a definite thing that could show up right now. I'm starting to see some hot spots around my house and having to drag out the hose. Even though I'm irrigating, I'm having to drag out the hose and the sprinkler to supplement because you just can't rely 100% on irrigation. A lot of times it's not getting quite 100% coverage, so you've got to be mindful of that. So anyways, I'm always like to talk about the weather, and I guess it's what impacts this business the most, and so we pay close attention to it, and it has a huge impact on what we do here day to day. So anyways, we are staring fall in the face. Thankfully, we're hopefully going to get past this hot and dry, and want to mention that fall is a fantastic time of year to plant grass. The temperatures start to moderate and you don't have to go as crazy with the watering, and it's just easier on the plant. Anyone that's planting plants of any kind, whether it be grass or trees or bushes or whatever, will tell you the time of year to avoid in Texas plantings, or at least along the Gulf Coast, to plant stuff is the summer, and spring is probably ideal as grass goes, and then fall is always, I tell people, my second pick, because we do have such a long fall. Heck, it won't be, who knows, it could be late December before we see our first frost or something. So we've got hopefully a few months of more moderate temperatures. So it is a great time to plant sod. It's easier on us to be out there doing it. It's easier on the plant. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a project. We are still really hot and dry. I touched on the watering. You need to be irrigating 1 inch of water per week, and we say whether it's falling out of the sky or coming out of a sprinkler, you need 1 inch of water a week. You can count on an irrigation system to do that. If you're watering 2 to 3 times a week for long enough, you can kind of refer to our tip sheet as far as the specifics go, but you're trying to get down 1 inch of water a week, and you want to do that with either 2 or 3 waterings. You do, again, have to be paying attention because, like I said, in my own front yard, I've noticed I'm running the irrigation 3 days a week, and I'm running it for the proper amount per zone, the number of minutes per zone, depending on the type of sprinkler heads that I have. I'm noticing some dry spots. I've tried to go out there and stick the screwdriver in the ground. The ground's hard. Can't get the screwdriver hardly in the ground, and it certainly doesn't have any mud on it when I pull it out. So I know that I need to drag the hose out there, and I need to turn the sprinkler on and run it for a couple of hours. Some people might think 15 minutes. A lot of people underestimate how long it takes to put down that amount of water. But if you don't do that and we don't get some rain here in the next week or so, you're going to see those hot spots, and those hot spots are going to turn into chinch bug infested areas because the chinch bugs are looking for that drought stressed grass. Be on the lookout for that. You do see some chinch bugs. Be sure and get most of the liquids that you screw onto the end of the hose and spray out there. Most of them will treat chinch bugs. I know that cutters that the big box store sells will probably work. We sell Sayonara, which is the same thing. You screw it on the end of the hose and wave it out there, cover the grass, and it will kill it. Will kill them. Usually a couple of treatments, but be on the lookout for that, and definitely make sure every area of your yard is getting plenty of water right now. And again, Watering amounts and times of year and whatnot, please refer to our tip sheet. We've kind of got it broken down into times of year and whether we're talking about newly installed grass or are we talking about established grass. So those all things make a difference. If we're talking about newly installed grass, that inch of water a week, now we're talking about 2 inches of water just the first day you lay it down, and then probably an inch of water a day for the first 2 weeks. It's so hot this time of year, it's hard. Rain is, unless it was raining almost daily, you would need to be doing a fair amount of supplemental irrigation. That's the reason it's hard to plant grass this time of year, because you do have to really stay on top of the watering, and if you don't and those pieces dry out, it'll disappear in a hurry. So watering is important when it gets to be this time of year. Mowing as well, we've talked about that. I always like to touch on the mowing. This time of year, you've got to raise that deck height up really good. There are multiple reasons that you do that, whether the grass is in full sun or in the shade. If it's in the shade, it's even more important because you're trying to collect more sunlight, less stress on the grass to cut it a little higher. But the rule of thumb is never remove more than 1/3 of the leaf tissue at a time. So that is the drawback to people trying to stretch the budget or don't want to go put in the sweat. If you try to mow every other week this time of year when this grass is really growing, especially if you have fertilized and are watering how you're supposed to, you have absolutely got to mow at least once a week, or you're really stressing that grass. Because if you looked at it, I just told you need to cut no more than 1/3 of the leaf off. When you wait 2 weeks, you're probably cutting over half of the leaf off, and that's really stressful to the grass. So you want to try to avoid doing that. Also, the clippings, we get asked that a fair amount as well. Leaving those grass clippings out there, especially if you don't mow too infrequently. If you mow every 2 weeks, or the grass gets real tall and you mow and it leaves a bunch of thatch out there, that has to be removed, whether you're bagging it as you're mowing or whether you rake it up and get it out of there. But if you're mowing frequently enough, you ought to be able to leave those clippings out there at least every other mowing. It returns a fair amount of nitrogen, that decaying grass clippings, especially if you have the mulching blades that really cut it up fine. It puts a lot of nitrogen back in the soil, and that's good for the grass. Fertilizing, we really don't encourage people this time of year after you've done the super turf in early summer. Super turf would be the only thing that we would recommend during the summer months. We are on the cusp of putting out the fall special, which is the brown bag, that we're not trying to get a big green up front out of the grass right now. We're trying to get the grass ready to go into dormancy and to come out strong in the spring. We aren't selling any fertilizer right now, but the fall special will be in the 1st of September. We tell people September's still going to be pretty warm around here, I suspect. Second half of September, all of October would be what I would recommend for getting that fall special out. If you're only fertilizing a couple of times a year, the fall one is, I would say, if you were only doing 2 times a year, I'd do the spring and I would do the fall. That summer helps it a lot and get through the heat and the stress of that as well. But it's really important to get that fall fertilizer out here in the next 6 or 8 weeks. So I did mention a little earlier in the intro there the gray leaf spot and chinch bugs. Summer brings about both of them, depending on if we're having a wet or a dry summer. Early summer, with all the rain we got in July, gray leaf spot, we were getting daily calls about gray leaf spot, and we were selling a ton of the Heritage G granular fungicide. We are going to be looking at needing the same thing for brown patch coming up next month and probably the following month. Over the summer, it's usually gray leaf spot and the summer patch that you've got to worry about. And Heritage G treats both those. Now if you haven't been watering, you probably could be looking at the chinch bug. So those are the 2 issues that we're seeing right now. Coming up here again next month, it's a good idea to, I would say, mid-September to put out a treatment of the Heritage G, especially if you know your yard has areas that are prone to brown patch. Preventing brown patch is a lot easier than getting rid of it. So if you put out a preventative measurement of the Heritage G in mid-September and then put it out again 21 days later, it will keep that from showing up, and you'll have a lot prettier yard throughout the winter rather than having a bunch of scarred up yellow brown circles out in your yard. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. We did talk a little earlier about fall being a fantastic time to plant grass, and it's because of the moderate temperatures. And like I said, in any plant, when it's stressful for plants to be transplanted, and grass is a plant just like a bush, and if you can do it when those temperatures are a little bit more moderate, that helps a lot. And it helps with your water bill a lot too, because you don't have to water as profusely as you do when you're doing this in July and August when it's just brutally hot outside. So it's a great time of year to do it. Please give us a shout if you've got any questions about it, or what it all entails. There are usually fewer pests, the chinch bugs and the funguses and whatnot that can show up in the summer. Usually those kind of subside as well in the fall because of the moderating temperatures. So keep that in mind if you've got a project coming up that this time of year is, we're getting into a prime season for doing that. Proper soil preparation and things like that are still very important. You never want to lay grass over existing grass. You want as much dirt on dirt contact as you can get, and you have to water no matter what time of year you water. That first day of watering, we tell everybody 2 inches of water that first day. You really have to seal that piece of grass to the ground and get those air pockets out, because what happens as soon as the water hits that piece of grass, it tries to put out the little new white roots to start attaching itself to the ground. And if those little fresh white roots hit air pockets between the layers of existing dirt and the dirt on the bottom of the piece of grass, it'll kill them. So that's one of the many reasons for the big first day watering when you plant new grass. So getting that area free of vegetation, and if you can put down a little fresh topsoil, it gives those roots some nice alluvial dirt, loose dirt to work with, as opposed to trying to get in that hard compact clay. I know some people call and ask us about tilling, and it's a great idea if you can do it. Our soil is so compact and clay filled and whatnot a lot of times, and if there's a tree within 100 yards, an oak tree, you can bet the dirt's going to be full of roots and stuff too. So normally what we do is scrape off an area it's totally free of vegetation after it's sprayed, of course, because you need to spray it to kill any weeds that might be there. And you spray it, scrape that off, add the new topsoil to it. How much? We normally tell people at least a yard of dirt per pallet of grass. That gets a decent layer. The more you can do, the better, without creating a drainage problem or whatever in your yard, because the new fresh dirt is just so much easier for that grass to put down roots and to in the future gather nutrients and moisture from than that hard compact clay. So keep that in mind, and also obviously choosing the right type of grass as well. If you've got shadier areas, you need to be considering palmetto or cobalt, or maybe one of the fine bladed zoysias. Now, if you have full sun, 100% sunlight, you can consider some of the Bermuda grasses. If you've got somewhere in between, which is what most people have, that's where the regular Raleigh St. Augustine, the Palisade zoysia, things like that come into play. Call us and pick our brain anytime about the type of grasses we recommend for different circumstances. So that's kind of what I've got here. Please do download our tip sheet so that you'll have all this information. It's a lot of information. It's a 2-page document. It's kind of small print. It's a lot of information. Again, it's broken down into the time of the year and whether or not we're talking about established grass or newly installed grass. So take a look at that. It's on our website in several places, and you can download it and print it as well. If you've got questions, please give us a call. We would love to talk with you about it. There's a lot of years of grass experience in this office, and we're happy to impart any of that knowledge on you that you want to hear about. And so give us a shout if we can help, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next month.